afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining us today. On behalf of AUVSI, we are very pleased to welcome you to our final National Drone Safety Awareness Week webinar, In the Classroom, How Can We Use Drones in STEM Education? My name is Shannon Whitney, and I am the Education Manager here at AUVSI. Before we get started, we have a couple housekeeping things that we like to go over with everybody. All of the participant lines will remain muted during today's broadcast. A recording of the program is in process and will be emailed to everyone and posted to auvsi.org within the next few days. If you're listening to the broadcast and need any assistance, please send a note to our AUVSI support team using the chat box on the right side of your screen. If you don't see the chat box open, please click that chat bubble icon that's in the very bottom right-hand corner of the screen. This will open the chat box panel. After the presentation today, we will open up the session for Q&A. Attendees, you are welcome to and encouraged to submit your questions at any time throughout this webinar using the Q&A box on the right side of your screen. But the questions will only get answered towards the end of the program. So please note that the Q&A box is different from the chat. So any content questions that you have for our speakers, make sure you use that Q&A box. It's located directly underneath the chat, and simply click the arrow to expand it. So let's get started. We have some excellent speakers with us today. First up, we're joined by Mario Worth, the Director of Unmanned Systems for the SHU Educational Foundation, Amanda Negron, Executive Director for the SHU Educational Foundation, and moderating for us today is Deandra Brooks, Senior Communications Specialist for the FAA's UAS Integration Office. So we want to introduce you to each of these people before we turn it over. So let's start with our moderator, Deandra Brooks. So Deandra recently joined the FAA UAS Integration Office just last year. And while she may be new to drones, Deandra has focused on aviation policy for nearly 2 decades, which includes time with the FAA's Airport Division, Office of Government Industry, and the Office of Commercial Space Transportation. Deandra also represented the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association as the Director of Legislative Affairs, where her responsibilities included outreach and advocacy on Capitol Hill. We'll also hear from Mario Worth, and Mario was born and raised in Germany, but started his own UAS company in Florida back in 2015, where he provided helicopter flight instruction as well as commercial UAS operations. He is currently the Director of Unmanned Systems for the SHU Educational Foundation, overseeing youth and adult programming and research for the UAS components. And we also have with us Amanda Negron, who serves as Managing Director to the Honorable Dr. Paul Hsu of the SHU Educational Foundation. Under her leadership, the Foundation supports experiential learning and workforce development initiatives while focusing on preparing and exposing students to career opportunities in STEM. Areas of STEM programming have included robotics, drones, UAS, cybersecurity, coding, artificial intelligence, prototyping, and many other high-demand STEM skills areas that are imperative to developing future technological advancements. So thank you all for being here. As I mentioned, Deandra is here to moderate and provide an introduction from the FAA. So thank you so much. And with that, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, and welcome to In the Classroom. Today's Drone Safety Awareness Week theme showcases how to use drones in science, technology, engineering, and math education. The FAA recognizes that educators have a critical role to play when it comes to the next generation of pilots and our future workforce. And for many FAA employees, this isn't just a standard talking point. It's a personal issue. For example, the FAA's Deputy Administrator, Dan Elwell, he fell in love with aviation when his teacher, Mr. Tyler, took him flying in a Cessna Skyhawk. He was only 11 years old, but that flight started a lifelong love. Teachers give their students the power to dream. And when drones are introduced into the classroom setting, students are given the tools to dream. We saw this on Monday when Administrator Dixon paid a virtual visit to the Global Air Drone Academy in Baltimore, Maryland. These middle and high school students aren't satisfied with just learning how to fly drones. They're learning how to build them, program them, and even write business plans for how to use them. These are bona fide job skills that translate into the workforce. And personally, I'm amazed by these 16-year-old entrepreneurs. They're passing the Part 107 remote pilot exam and starting their own businesses. When I was 16, I was babysitting, but that was a long time ago. Today, the cost and size of drones make it easy to bring them into the classroom. But then what? How can educators leverage drones to teach a full range of curriculum? And where do you find the resources to support these lessons? To share those answers and more, we have Amanda Negron, Executive Director of the SHU Educational Foundation, and Mario Wirth, the Director of the Unmanned Training at the SHU Educational Foundation. Amanda, you take it from here.
Thank you so much, Deandra. We are very honored to be able to be part of this Drone Safety Awareness Week initiative. And really, we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization that is trying to empower young people to seek out the skills that will progress their lives into good careers and help our nation to be aggressive in our technological expertise. So how do we do that? Well, we were first inspired by Dr. Shu's life. He is our founder and president, and he spent 40 years building high-tech businesses and was a leader also in his personal life and in his community. And so as we looked at the way he lived his life and the way he pursued those aerospace companies, we realized that he took risks at times and they were calculated, and he had to see the opportunity. He had to make safe choices, but he also had to be experimental and explore. So the tenets of his life inspired us in developing the SHU Innovation Institutes, where we are providing courses and training. We have a SHU STEM range where we're able to do some research and development and testing and evaluation. And we're now building programs, curriculums, and opportunities to get teachers involved in exploring these new emerging fields. And drones are really an exciting way to engage with young people because, as many educators know, today kids are inundated with so many choices. So I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about the SHU Foundation's take on how we accomplish this. I'm also going to point out that we do have a website where you can learn a little bit more about our efforts, or we can point you in the direction of some other resources that are out there. So our websites are shown here on this slide. You can always reach us by email as well at support@shu-foundation.org. So when a teacher is trying to get the attention span of her classroom, she's competing with, or he is competing with, the fact that, kids come from different backgrounds, different exposures. Some students are really accelerated with technology, and others they're just barely stepping in. And so when they give them the ability to work hands-on, have the ability to touch things, try the equipment, learn the rules, and then also give them room to try it out and expand, there are students that really blossom in that environment. And we've seen it firsthand through some of our programming and in all types of STEM education, but particularly we were excited to explore drones because it is an area which is going to become a high demand field. We already know that the industry is $1 billion industry that is just expanding constantly across the international realm. But how is it impacting our local communities and the employment opportunities that exist? How can we bring that closer to what students are doing in the classroom so they're prepared once they graduate to join that world? And so what we've tried to do is is involve industry in all of our programs. And so that's a common theme across each of our courses and our camps and our competitions, is to allow industry to have a voice and say, what are the skill sets that are missing? Where are the gaps? Sometimes in a traditional classroom, you're going to find that that some students learn really well from the book, from the PowerPoint presentation or the whiteboard. But there are other learners out there that need to get outdoors. They need to test things out. We call it fail forward as well, so that they can test something a couple times, and each time they learn something more from the experience. And that's easier to do when you have a flexible learning environment. Some classrooms don't allow for that, so we have students that come to us in the after-school space, but we have teachers that have found ways to use technology in the classroom, and some of that is done through demonstrations, videos, or they're able to use resources like their gymnasiums and settings of that nature. Introducing STEM skills and problem solving, critical thinking, safety, and how to apply all of these skills in a real relevant way, that comes down to a teacher's creativity. And so we're trying to empower them a little bit and show them ways to do that. The areas where we see the most exploration going on with drones have come into play with exploring weather conditions, physics, concepts, equations, measurement, logic, basic math, and working with variables, coding, programming the drones, engineering concepts, and learning things like about aviation and aerospace that they wouldn't normally come into contact with. So forces of flight and Bernoulli's principle, if they were just reading it in a chapter in a science class, it really wouldn't come to life quite the same way it does when we actually produce a real life application and do demonstration and hands-on training. As we're talking about education, though, and the classroom, we take the stance that it is a lifelong classroom. So we have students that engage with us at all points, all ages. And we're particularly excited when we see the parents of some of our young people that have found a new hobby or new area of interest for a second career. And that happens very often. They are overwhelmed by their abilities, and they realize that this is something new that they can use for their industry. So for example, we had some students in a program where we were talking about agricultural applications, and one of the students raised their hand and they explained that they were from a farm family, and they couldn't see how that would be used in farming. And so we had a speaker at one of the rotations that was able to talk about some of the newer ways that it's being used to detect, where we need to water, so irrigation strategies, and looking at whether there's drift of fertilizing, and we have some exciting case examples that we can show to students in the classroom that help them to see those applications. And one of the key areas that families are interested in nowadays is seeing the pathway to a job. So not only just showing them the skills and giving them opportunities to stretch those skills, but also having them learn what are all the steps to a career. Do they have to get a college education for this occupation? Can they take certification training? Can they earn a license? What does it cost? And so we've really built that into our approach for all of our educational programs, is the full concept of what can this do to empower them? If they learn about this, is it just for fun, or are they actually interested in going farther? Do they see themselves as a pilot one day, or do they want to own a business that utilizes these technologies and give them some tools to pursue them? I think the core element that we are driven by is that lifelong love of aviation that Deandra mentioned. My father was a pilot Unfortunately, his pilot career was ended and he had to create a new career. So we're also always looking at that growth mindset, of I'm always learning. I'm always interested in these fields. What can I do? What points can I take and put in my toolbox and continue my stretch? So that's a little bit about the SHOE Foundation. There is an exciting opportunity that we are pursuing to expand education in our area, and that is getting even beyond our facilities, which we have a SHOE Innovation Institute South in the south end of our county, which is a military. Very, very busy military area, to the north end, which is more of an agricultural and rural area, where we have a SHOE Innovation Institute North. And so in that area, we realized that there were a lot of students that would like to learn in the great outdoors, but there's also a lot of industries that want to train their operators. They want to prepare safe operators, and many times they will even hire them, out of high school or during high school in the summer, and say, get your Part 107 operator's license and come to work doing roof inspections or help us with some of our projects. And we needed a space to do that. We soon found a partner in Texas A&M, Lone Star, and they are located in Corpus Christi, Texas. They are one of the FAA testing sites, and they are doing really exciting research and development within the bounds of FAA's authorities. And so to expand the industry, we not only have to expand how many operators are trained to do it safely, but we also have to look at what are the applications for the technologies that need to be made in order to bring it into our airspace, integrate it into that national airspace safely. And so you have to have places where you can do this that are safe. And so we have a 400-acre SHOE STEM range where we're in Class G airspace, and we're able to do a lot more. And through this partnership, we're really excited to see it connect with some of these facilities where we're already doing a lot of the ground school and letting students work with the smaller drones. So there's so many opportunities to engage with young people about these industries, but also continue that learning throughout, our lives. And hopefully we have more startup businesses and more entrepreneurs that are passionate about aviation, and we'll go into those fields. So I want to tell you about one of the other programs that we have by introducing Mario Wirth. But before we do, we're going to see a short clip about our Drone Team Challenge program, which is just an enrichment opportunity and curriculum for learning about UAS.
All right. Thank you, Amanda. So I'm today going to share with you guys a quick PowerPoint and kind of our mission that we have in our Drone Team Challenge program that builds our safety from the ground up for these kids. So we have 5 missions. Mission 1 is knowledge, mission 2 is simulation, mission 3 is flight and navigation, and mission 4 is creation. And mission 5 is probably one of our most important one, and that's mentorship. So I'm going to go into those in a little bit of detail. So mission 1, our knowledge portion of it. The knowledge of aviation principle and drone operations is the foundation of success. Each student will obtain knowledge in the following subjects: airspace, regulations, weather, performance, and operations. If that sounds familiar to some of our participants, that's because those are the 5 subject areas that the FAA requires you in your Part 107 exams. So we built a brand new curriculum that moves progressively from the elementary school up to the high school. To once they achieve or go through our curriculum, they're ready to take that Part 107 test and become certified remote operators. Knowledge is safety, so we're already instilling the regulation, the airspace, and that knowledge into the students from day one with our knowledge and our curriculum. Mission 2 is our simulation mission, and students use flight simulators to prepare them for controlling the UAVs before flight. Students use professional controllers used in the commercial industry as well. So I think you're familiar with FreeSky if you're in the commercial industry. This is the controller that we chose. They don't just get to learn what we call the 0 throttle, but also the mid throttle. So with the simulator, they already get to know throttle control, how to use your trims, how to program that remote in order to even use it for the simulator. Those students really learn through play. It also builds fine motor skills as well as muscle memories for the use then in the bigger commercial drones. So it's a really good stepping stone to get them prepared for actually flying the UAVs. Now, mission 3 is our flight mission. So students actually navigate a simple obstacle course with multiple gates. Student pilots will participate hands-on piloting skills with assistance of a navigator to accomplish the goal of being the team that most quickly navigates time gates. Students learn the following skill: effective communication, situational awareness, crew resource management, and working as a team. So we think of those terms as visual observers. So we're not just focusing on just a pilot. A lot of times the pilot gets a lot of recognition, and the support crew, which is your visual observers, and all the guys in the background don't get a lot of recognition. However, what we found with that is that the teams that work together very well actually achieve the fastest times. And the kids actually see that. So it makes them want to work together, makes them want to build that navigation skill and use that crew resource management, use their navigator in order to navigate that course fast. So with those teams, I really have to mention effective communication. One of the amazing things that we see is when you have a team of a navigator and a pilot, they almost before the flight go together and actually brief the flight. They start coming up with their own hand signals between each other so they know exactly how to fly the course and what hand signal means what. They also, because doing our competition portions, it gets very loud. So those hand signals become really, really important. And you see that in effective communication without even verbal communication, which is absolutely incredible to actually see that with those kids. And keep in mind, those are elementary school kids all the way up to high school kids. So in our mission 4 creation, which is an integral part of the UAS industry currently, we're going to so much more automation. And we start that with our creation mission, which is a programming as essential part. So students kind of progress from a block programming all the way up to a Python programming. So we start them off with a simple block programming system to where they drag and drop, and the drone actually does what they do, what they drag and drop their blocks in. And then as they get progressively better at it, we kind of start taking the blocks out, and they have to make their own blocks. They have to start writing down their language. And it goes as far as some of these kids picking it up very quickly. And just recently, we actually programmed a drone to recognize, we call them Aruco markers, but what they are is more of a QR codes that are widely known. However, if the drone recognizes it, it will actually enable the drone to do that command that is programmed to that marker. And again, we're talking about elementary to high school kids that are doing this. However, how does that relate to STEM? Well, this is actually a really big part in STEM, because while programming, students must measure distances, angle, convert measurements, and apply basic to advanced math skills to implement accurate programming. So this type of autonomous flight in the commercial industry is widely used in surveying, mapping, agricultural planning, crop surveying, environmental observation, even search and rescue. Now, with this, we really got to look at the kids in the classroom as well, right? So these kids go to school, they go to the math class, and often they ask themselves, why do I need to know this? Why do I need to know the conversion between inches and centimeters, right? Why do I need to know angles? Why do I need to know, solve for X? Well, with this mission, this is really answered to them, because all of a sudden when they start coding that, they're using those principles learned in the classroom, and it starts making sense. And their light bulb comes on, and they develop a more love for their math and their science and everything else. So it's a really integrated mission in that. Mission 5, our mentorship. And like I said, this is kind of like really dear to our heart and really dear to my heart coming from the commercial industry. We find ourselves sometimes in the commercial industry more as competition versus, working together as a teamwork. And so in that mentorship, the Drone Team Challenge provides a program platform for exploring drone flight, navigation, and programming skills. DTC also encourages students mentorship, passing on acquired skills between peers and from professional subject matter experts to create a pipeline of students interested in furthering UAV technology. So we actually get a lot of industry professionals coming in and talking about their job, how they learned the lesson the hard way, to kind of give the kids a heads up and a stepping stone to not have to repeat that hard-learned lesson. And it is really dear to my heart because, like I said earlier, in the commercial industry, we often see each other as competition versus as a integrated group that needs to work together in order to drive that innovation a lot quicker and a lot further. We don't need to have everybody making the same mistakes. If one person makes that mistakes, sharing that mistakes, owning up to that mistakes, and learning from it is accelerating the entire industry. So we're trying to build that from the ground up with those students. So one of the quotes from Benjamin Franklin, which I thought fits very well, is, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I will learn." And we see that on a daily basis by the students. Now, so I was talking about our safety culture. So launching safety from takeoff, right? So Shoot Educational Foundation's Drone Team Challenge program builds a culture of safety from classroom to career. It is really important, and anybody in the aviation industry knows that that culture of safety needs to be there in order to be successful in it. It determines accountability, communication, and training. And I think we cover all of these right out of the gate with our missions and integrate them into that culture of safety. One of them that actually the kids take that culture of safety and basically it becomes contagious. It becomes really contagious to everybody around. Not just it doesn't just instill the responsibility of their personal use in the drone, so they don't go into restricted airspace, don't fly in a national seashore or any other areas that they're not supposed to. But they also share that knowledge along other students, parents, family members, to encourage them to do the right thing and to fly in their area that they should be flying. And that actually translates all the way over to the professional practice in the commercial UAS market through deeper understanding and the value for safety. It's that inspiration of safety, right? You want to be that safe operator. And that's kind of what we are trying to teach those kids from the ground up with STEM education, tying in the student classroom, what they learn in the classroom, to drones, and building that workforce that then moves on as a safe operator in their career. So that's kind of our program overview. If you have any questions, feel free to ask any questions, and we'll be happy to answer those questions.
That was awesome. I loved what you said, that the culture of safety is contagious. That's one of the primary missions and really kind of the driving force behind Drone Safety Awareness Week is we want that culture of safety to be contagious among all the drone users. But I did have a few questions for you all. Coding, navigation, teamwork, communication, and flying. These students are exposed to a lot. What is their favorite part of the curriculum?
That's a really good question. And it's actually one of the tougher questions because we have such a diverse group of learners. It's really difficult to tell what is their favorite. Everybody has their favorite. I hear a lot that simulation and actually coding, so the creation mission 4, is some of their favorites. But you ask any kind of student, and every single student is going to tell you that they have their favorite, and it's going to be completely different from the other students, right? I hope that answers it. It kind of goes to that point, yeah.
I think I'd add that there are some opportunities to have them use the skills in a real application, and that's when I see them get the most excited. So we have a particular part of our competition that's called Mission Possible, where the students have to complete a mission utilizing the skills from the program, and it's really something that they don't know about before we put it out there. So it becomes a kind of a challenge. You know, are we going to be able to solve it? Can we use our equipment properly and quickly to get the answer? And I think anything that has that kind of a push to it, makes kids excited. And it's you want to teach kids however you can get them to get that energy going. So you can get really creative with it.
I'll bet. So, one of the reasons why Drone Safety Awareness Week is virtual, why we're all here virtually, is COVID-19. So it's had a profound impact on schools around the world. What advice do you have for teachers who are adapting their STEM programs, if they're doing some type of drone education program? What tips do you have for them for how to transition this all to virtual learning?
Certainly. The program Drone Teen Challenge that we've told you about was inspired by a teacher in our area, Sean McSheehy, an engineering teacher at a high school in our community. And he was used to always having them in the hangar, he said, at school. And that became comfortable. Everybody would always be there. They'd even gather on weekends. Everything was in person. When COVID hit, it really shook up the experience of teaching. And they had to be agile very, very quickly. They had to flex. And I was really glad to hear from a lot of teachers that kids flexed with them and took that growing pain to be an opportunity. So a lot of the kids that had been working with drones started doing more online exploration. And so we put together a series of some videos, and the teacher even came into our space and did some demonstration and some talks that allowed the kids to from their own home continue on their track. Now, looking ahead as we all convert to this new world, I think that we've got to start using our outdoor spaces more. We need to be thinking about how we socially space, and virtual platforms are going to be exploding. There's going to be more and more of it, but a lot of learners do need that one-on-one. And so we still feel it's important to give opportunities, safely and with the right parameters for them to be able to engage, especially the engagement that takes place from peer to peer. You can learn a lot from watching a video, and you can certainly get on a simulator, and there's a lot you can do online. But there is something to be said for having that opportunity to be in person and speak with someone and ask questions and watch them do something. So we're trying to in this new world, have a mix of both, and it is possible to do so.
No, I know it's a big challenge that everyone is grappling with these days. So we're getting some questions from the audience, and a couple of questions have come in about the requirements. One individual, sounds like an educator in Michigan, was under the assumption that you needed a private pilot's license prior to operating a drone, but we know that's not the case. Do you all want to speak to some of the requirements that you think it's helpful for people, for teachers, for educators, for industry folks who are coming in and assisting in these types of programs, what kind of credentials and experience they need to have to share this technology?
Absolutely. So first off, so there are two different variations. You've got the commercial realm and you have your hobbyist realm. So as a hobbyist, there is going to be a test that is going to have to be administered by the FAA soon. I don't know how far they've gotten with that. I have not looked into that too closely since I'm more on the commercial side and care more about the Part 107.
Next year.
There you go. So for now, you can fly under hobbyist as long as you fly through certain guidelines. Those guidelines you can find under the AMA website. They usually pertain to 400 feet, being Class G airspace, don't fly over people, maintain visual line of sight, don't fly at night, those kind of parameters. You can find that information under the AMA website. So as a teacher, if you're bringing in some of the drone experts or some of the drone professionals, just check if they have a Part 107, because that Part 107 is, that knowledge portion of it is a handful for somebody that has not been in the aviation industry. So that credential alone can say a lot about them. However, don't turn out some of these hobbyist guys that, they've been doing it for so many years, and they've have so much experience, but they might be just not wanting to do it commercially. They don't want to do that 2-year exam or don't want to do an exam every 2 years. So don't count those out either. So it's really difficult to kind of vet those drone experts to come in, but you can kind of check. One of the questions for some of the drone experts that are hobbyists would be, are you registered with the AMA? How long have you been flying? How long have you been building? If somebody comes out, oh, I used to build with balsa wood, you have somebody that has been in the industry for quite a while. And yeah, otherwise, don't let the Part 107 discourage you from actually going out and getting your Part 107 even as a teacher, because you would do your students a dissatisfaction if you're not going out and getting your Part 107, because you will learn so much obtaining that Part 107, and that knowledge you can pass on to your students. I hope that answers that.
Yeah, and I think you raised so many wonderful points. One of the things that I really enjoy about working in this particular sector of aviation is the passion. You have individuals who started building those model airplanes when they were 5 or 6 years old, and now they're in their 60s or 70s, and it's something that they still feel very, very passionate about. And I love that. One of the questions that we've gotten is about classroom learning in drones. And it sounds like a good approach is to show how the technology is used or could be used in professions or applications in the local community. It sounds like that's been your experience. Can you talk a little more about that?
Mario, do you want to answer that one, or you want me to?
I'll let you answer that one.
Okay. So everyone's communities probably have a different set of skill sets. Different competencies. We happen to be headquartered in an area that has a lot of aviators and actually quite a bit of defense related aerospace. So a lot of the students in these schools, they associate drone technology with the military, but we also want to expose them to all of the other applications. So it's important to talk about search and rescue, that, those applications for law enforcement, and especially in light of that our area was hit with hurricanes. So disaster recovery applications. How do we handle it when everything's down and we need to be able to see where to go to get to people and to send help. The other area is in utilities. So line management. We talk with a lot of power companies that are really starting to rely on these technologies so that they don't put their linemen in danger before they send them up. There's so many applications that are in just real estate and new developments and agriculture that we've talked a little bit about. But in order for students to really understand it, you have to bring somebody who's done it or they've applied it and give some real sound examples. It's hard when you just see a picture or you read an article about it, because it's not something you maybe see on your street corner. And a lot of people also think about unmanned as George Jetson, and they have questions about, are they going to be able to fly off to school, in an unmanned, aircraft. And so we talk about, well, the future, is that something that how would we get there? How would we use those technologies that way? So it's not just even how they're being used now, but what could be the applications in the future.
That's so true. We like to talk about drones for good, and it seems like every day I read more and more stories about how drones are really being used in ways that we'd never thought of before to do important work. So we have another great question, and that is, how long does it take to complete the Part 107 exam?
Mario, do you want
to? I can definitely take that. So it's it's a really good question, right? There are a lot of courses out there. I am pretty partial, of course, to the course that I usually teach for obvious reasons. So there are a lot of courses out there that give you the quick lessons on, each subject area, give you the keywords to find in the exam, and you can go pass your exam. However, those courses, they don't really teach you that foundation. So if you're looking for a course, really go and look for a course that teaches that foundation. So if somebody offers you a course that, hey, just come on this afternoon and we'll knock it out in 5 hours, that is almost impossible, right? I would say that's impossible. So you really want to look into a course that teaches you each one of those subject areas to a point where you build a foundation and where you understand it. We see so many, like, even if you follow the statistics of the FAA, and we see so many people passing their Part 107 the first go around, and 2 years later, when it comes to renewal, they won't be able to renew because they got that rote learning down. They know the answers to the questions, but they never got that deep understanding. And that's why they will never renew. after those 2 years. So I really recommend, if you're looking for a Part 107 course, how long should it take? Take your time with it, really learn about it. And any course that's just a day course, it's just impossible to obtain that knowledge. I would say around 20 hours, like a 20-hour course is somewhere where you get that basic foundation, and you're still going to have to learn on your own and obtain knowledge from hopefully the course that gives you the documentation to succeed, right? They give you the opportunity to go out and after the course study at home, and that's really, really important.
No, I think that's excellent advice, to take your time and to make sure you have the foundations and the basics down. Otherwise, you'll be out flying and soon your drone will be up in a tree. But that leads me to another question. I know that the Drone Team Challenge, they get those students, they're getting all of that information that we test on the Part 107 exam. How many of those students have taken and passed the Part 107 exam?
So I think Mario might want to take this one, but I was going to say that as you saw in a lot of the video clips, some of those students are not old enough yet to take the Part 107, but they know all the answers and they will smoke you if you take a quiz. But I think I'll let Mario talk a little bit more about how we're tracking them on up. And so that we can start to be able to follow them in their course. Mario, I didn't see your.
So when we started Drone Team Challenge, there's really no way of tracking if they get their license unless they come back to us and say, hey, I got my Part 107 license. So we're trying to solve that problem because, that's a good question, but we don't have actual numbers right now. So one of the things that we're trying to do is incentivize them to come back and actually give us those numbers. So we're trying to build what we call the portal. And the portal is going to be a network for students, and it isn't just based on Drone Team Challenge. It will be based on everything else that each student will be coming into our facilities or doing remote learning, and doing those cybersecurity exams, doing the Raspberry Pi programming, doing any of those courses, the small engine courses, and all these courses. And they can basically build a resume by attending those courses, and it gives them an incentive to come back and actually report back to us, yes, I've taken it, I've got it. So now we can connect them to the employers up on what they've just completed. So we don't have actual numbers currently, but we're working on that portal in order to track those numbers more accurately and kind of breach, again, that gap between industry and students, and give the industry the opportunity to really go and say, hey, I'm looking somebody that knows C++ or Python and that has experience with drones. And so we can pull up that portal and say, hey, so-and-so passed his Part 107 exam, and he completed Python and C++ language courses. So this person might be a good fit for you. So that's kind of in our building process as we build and grow the foundation.
And I think with the mentoring that goes on in this program, I think you're going to see a lot of your students come back and want to serve as those mentors. It's really, what I like so much about it is it's designed to create that full circle to have them come back.
And they do. They come back, and some of them, actually, we just had a couple of the kids that had even left. They were in college out in Colorado, we're in Florida, and they came back and they said, we want to spend our holidays mentoring some of the younger kids. And but we've also had some connections that have happened between the mentors that helped high school kids and giving them internships. And so that's an important step. Apprenticeship internship opportunities, also working to connect them with some scholarship if they are planning to advance into a college environment, then they're going to need some help there too. So it's good to know who is excited about these careers, especially in aerospace and aviation, and then start linking them. One of our projects that we're building right now is we have a partnership with a local college to put in an airframe and power plant mechanics program. These are the maintainers of the aircraft, and it's a high demand field right now. Well, sometimes on a team, a drone team, you figure out real quickly which one is the one who fixes everything. So when those props go down, or when there's a problem with the batteries and all of that, there's always the couple members of the team that emerge that are interested in how things work. And they're the ones usually 3D printing other parts, or they're excited to see if they could build a different version of the same equipment. Well, those are opportunities for us, because we look at those students and we say, hey, maybe they're not going to be the pilot. Maybe they're interested in becoming a mechanic, or designing the next drone. So
that's amazing. We have another question, and that is, do you have any curriculum that you can share with teachers?
Yes, we do. Mario can connect with those teachers to get them enrolled, registered in our program. And there is information available on droneteamchallenge.com, which is linked to our website as well. And so that program is available through there's an online system, a Moodle system that we end up once they register. So even if they're not going to do the competition piece, they can just use it for the curriculum in the classroom. They don't have to compete. We love the competition piece because it gets kids excited, but they can certainly do it by the lessons. They can engage at that level too. And their school districts can either put it into an existing course mainframe, or a course can be built out from it.
So we have, this is both a comment and a question. Someone who used to construct RC models since they were 10 years old. This is great for so many kids and also fathers, that they can learn together. And do you think this technology would be useful for very long distances, like to go to the moon and to see it in 3D?
I'm going to give that one to Mario.
That's a good question. Once you leave the atmosphere of the Earth, there are different laws that apply. So I'm sure some of the autonomous systems, some of the control systems, those kind of things, definitely. When you're looking at electric motors, or you kind of need, some air to be moved, which the vacuum of space doesn't offer that. So I think on the motors, not so much. But as far as any of the control systems, or any of the servo actuations, any of that, absolutely. I think one of the things that I showed to the kids all the time doing what we call flight ops, which we have once a week. There's a Mars helicopter that they send up, and it actually operates on those principles. So they actually package that in and send it up to Mars, and it will actually fly around Mars to get aerial pictures of Mars and send that back to Earth. So yes, there's definitely applications in space. There's definitely application on different planets. I don't think some apply, some don't, right? And it brings up a good point, because we have so many different unmanned systems currently. We have sea, we have land, and we have air. And AUVSI is one of those organizations that hits on all three of them, which is great, because we have to start working together and not just differentiating between air, land, and sea, because they're all going to mix. So there's definitely going to be some of that technology going into space and helping us explore space, but it also helps us explore the deep ocean, or our own planet more. So I hope that answers that one.
I hate to stop this conversation because I know we didn't quite get to all the questions, but we will respond to the rest of the questions in the chat. But this leaves us as a great way to close, and that is, I know that the space race in the 50s and 60s, it inspired so many people, so many of my colleagues at the FAA to get into aviation and to aerospace. And I really feel like we're seeing it's that second, inspiration with drones, because kids they're picking them up as toys, and then they're coding them, and they're learning teamwork and communication and learning how to be spotters and getting these incredibly valuable job skills. So it's really going to be that next impetus that helps to fuel this whole new generation of aerospace employees and our workforce. So I think I have one of the best jobs in the world. But I really need to thank AUVSI for hosting this session. I know it was incredibly valuable for me. Hopefully it was very valuable to the educators with us. And I'd like to thank our speakers from the SHU Educational Foundation. Thank you, Amanda and Mario. And thank you to everyone who participated and asked so many great questions. So working in the FAA's UAS Integration Office, we have to be able to envision our future, a time when drones and crewed aircraft are sharing the national airspace. Our goal of fully integrating drones, it's a paradigm shift. But I know that today's educators are equipping students with the skills necessary to achieve this future. So fly safe.
Fly safe.
Thank you so much, Deandra and Amanda and Mario. I echo the sentiments of this great conversation and great presentation. So yes, we have unfortunately reached the end of our session today. Thank you all once again for attending, and attendees, you will receive a link to access this recording within the next few days. In addition to this webinar, AUVSI is continuing to bring even more virtual content in the coming weeks. There will be no webinars next week with the holiday, but we will be back in December with some more great content. Here's a look at our next 2 scheduled webinars that you won't want to miss. So be sure to visit auvsi.org for a complete list of those upcoming programs and services, including these 2 webinars. And as we've shared all week, if you are a remote pilot looking to take your career to new heights, or a business looking to hire the most qualified drone operators, the AUVSI Trusted Operator Program can help. This program is the first industry consensus certification that incorporates internationally recognized operational standards, and it builds on the FAA Part 107 certificate. Level 2 and 3 operators undergo hands-on training and testing, and all trusted operators are dedicated to safe, reliable, and professional flying. So learn more at the website listed on this slide. And if you have any additional questions or comments from today, please contact us at education@auvsi.org. So lastly, today's program is copyrighted by AUVSI with all rights reserved. So once again, thank you to everybody, and we hope you have a great rest of your day and a wonderful weekend.